Here I stand, guitar in hand. Everybody knows a Chicago man. It's in my walk, it's in my talk. Your woman want me, it's not my fault. I broke some rules, paid some dues, play my blues, the Chicago way.
Hitting Left on Lumpen Radio. And now your host, Mike Klonsky.
Welcome to the 258th edition of Hitting Left with Mike Klonsky and friends. We're coming at you live from Chicago on Friday, September 12th on WLPN 105.5 FM and streaming live across the globe at lumpenradio.com. My producer this morning is Charlie Garcia. Good morning, Charlie. Good morning and welcome to Hitting Left. I'm joined by two militant voices this morning from Chicago's grassroots resistance, Kathy Tholin and Laura Tanner of Indivisible. Kathy is the board chair of Indivisible Chicago. She helped lead the massive No Kings protest that brought tens of thousands to Daley Plaza to challenge authoritarian drift and to defend immigrant rights. Laura Tanner is co-founder and co-leader of Grassroots Progressive Group Indivisible Evanston, and has been instrumental in mobilizing neighborhood chapters and amplifying progressive coalitions across the city. Indivisible Chicago Alliance is keeping up the pressure with rapid response actions, print-at-home protest signs, and neighborhood organizing. The Hands Off campaign is pushing back against federal overreach and ICE presence in sanctuary cities. Good morning, Kathy and Laura. I could have gone on and on with introductions, but I think a lot of our listeners already kind of know Indivisible and hopefully have been active along with you in various marches and rallies. So let's just get into it. First, let me say how much I am upset and angered over the assassination of MAGA media star Charlie Kirk, founder of the right-wing youth movement Turning Points. Kirk's assassination, regardless of motive, joins a long, bloody ledger. It's part of a macabre American ritual, a cycle of violence and condemnation and inertia. Political violence isn't an aberration in American history. It's a reoccurring motif. Many opponents and including liberal politicians, are claiming this isn't who we are. But history says otherwise. Assassination and political violence are as American as apple pie, from the bullet that ended Lincoln's presidency to the one that silenced MLK and Malcolm X, from the CIA's coups in Iran, Chile, Congo, to the underwriting of the ongoing genocide in Gaza. This country has long used violence to settle its political scores. First off, your thoughts on the Charlie Kirk assassination and its implications, if any, for your work in Indivisible. Either one of you can run with that. Kathy, why don't you?
It's a tough place to start, Mike.
I know.
But it's a tough day or a tough time, and I think your intro was absolutely right. Right, this was a horrific act of murder. It is not foreign to us. We have seen these kinds of acts, more often targeting people on the other side of the spectrum, and it is, of course, part of the world we are trying to change, right?
Yeah.
And so, on the one hand, as you say, it's horrific and not new. There was a school shooting on the same day. It was the 46th school shooting of the year, I think, something like that. It's not possible to keep track of the numbers. And so we know that that we live in a world in which there's access to guns, and there's rhetoric that makes results in these kinds of things. And the rhetoric, of course, is ramping up on the Trump side, and they're issuing all kinds of statements about getting rid of leftist organizations. But I guess I would say that this reinforces the need for us to act in response and resist the kinds of things what we see happening. Two, reinforces the need to be mindful and look to what does it take to keep ourselves safe when we do that, or keep ourselves as safe as we can. And we believe that acting in community and finding effective ways to resist is a critical part of that. So we will continue our work. We will be mindful that that we have to understand the world in which we're in, but also that that world needs us to stand up.
Laura, I want to read you a little bit from Neil Steinberg's column this morning in the Sun-Times. He quotes Trump's, I don't know how to describe Laura Loomer, his confidant, Laura Loomer, saying, "It's time for the Trump administration to shut down, defund, and prosecute every single leftist organization. Close. We must shut these lunatic leftists down once and for all. The left is a national security threat." As someone who's trying to organize and as one of these leftist lunatics, what's your feeling when you hear something like that, and what do you think the implications are for the kind of organizing that you're doing?
Well, first of all, we operate on peaceful principles of nonviolent organizing, and that is definitely our priority when we are organizing people to do, any kind of protest or march. And I think when the president and his surrogates are, leveraging a terrible act of political violence and of gun violence, because we have, very loose gun laws in this country, especially in states with less regulation than we have, for example, here in Illinois. And, I think there's a lot of rhetoric coming from them. And what concerns me is that then gets their followers stirred up and thinking that, gives them justification to think that we are the problem. And I think that we can just demonstrate by continuing to do the work that we do and operate on the principles that Indivisible nationally and locally operates on, which is peaceful, nonviolent resistance to an extremist, authoritarian, administration. And
the great irony was Charlie Kirk's quote that. If people get killed in gun violence, it's worth it because it still protects the Second Amendment or something to that effect,
right,
And I don't bring that up as a justification, for the assassination, but the irony has to stay with us.
Right.
You both are involved in organizing a mass protest on October 18th, which I've been reading maybe the biggest protest demonstration in the history of this country. I don't doubt it because I was part of the previous ones that, maybe had 1 million people in the streets nationally. I'm not sure how they count that, but maybe more. I go back to the day when we helped organize, we at SDS helped organize the first anti-Vietnam War protest in 1965, 25,000 people, and thought that was kind of amazing. And now I'm seeing, the growth of this political movement in many ways, the breadth of it. do you think this climate of fear is going to impact your the turnout for the 18th? Or how are you going to prevent that?
Right. Right. Well, let's back up for a second
Yeah.
and talk about this No Kings and the resistance and the protests we've been seeing, because I think it relates to your question about how are people going to react to this one.
Okay.
What was astonishing, I think, one of the astonishing things about June 14th, which was the first No Kings, and as you may recall, it was on the day that Trump had a military parade through Washington, D.C., and the reaction...
It was pathetic.
And yes, and we overshadowed that by a lot, right? Mm-hmm. But the organizing framework there was, we aren't a country of kings. We don't have a king. This military parade is wrong. It's an example. It's an illustration of the authoritarian, policies and actions of our administration, of our president. And so this protest was organized nationwide. And when we say nationwide, I think the thing that was particularly notable about this is that it happened everywhere, right? It happened in more than 2,000 places. Mm-hmm. So it didn't just happen in the big cities.
And if you put that together with the rallies that Bernie Sanders and AOC had,
Yeah.
where they were turning out 50,000 people in,
Right.
Some
Right.
in red states and in rural communities.
So there were, 3,000 people in Naperville. There were 4,000 people in Arlington Heights. There were, just even in Chicago, there were, and we've never seen that happen, certainly not in a coordinated way, but we just haven't seen that kind of distributed action across the entire country. So if you ask the question, is this going to keep people from coming out? You also have to think about the fact that so many places, right? In very different circumstances, right? If we have federal immigration agents swarming Chicago, there are people who won't feel safe coming out, right? They're not in Naperville. They're not in, many of these other places where people will be rallying as well. But so I think we don't know exactly where we'll be on October 18th, of course, but we believe that people want to show their resistance, right? We had 75,000 people or so, more or less, 75,000 of our closest friends in Daley Plaza on June 14th. And I, at this moment in time, don't we anticipate that it'll be bigger than that. Now, can we predict everything that will happen between now and then? We cannot, but we will be working to create an event that is safe, or that is protecting people. We are fortunate to be in a place where the city administration supports what we do. We are not in a hostile environment, as some of our colleagues are, and we will be proceeding.
And so, Laura, what's your take on Trump's pullback of the National Guard? We were all expecting it, including the governor had reported that the Texas National Guard was already on its way to Great Lakes Naval Station. Yeah. And then the next thing I read is that he pulled back on it and said, well, maybe Chicago is too tough a piece of meat or something to that effect. What was your take on that, and what do you think caused it?
Well, some of the listeners may have heard the phrase taco. Trump always chickens out. I think when he's met with a massive amount of public resistance, he definitely that gets under his skin. And I think the strong pushback from our governor and from the mayor and from community organizers I think that sent a strong message that if they were going to take some kind of aggressive tactics in Chicago, that it was not going to go over well. So when you talk about our people, is what's happened, over the last few days going to impact people's turnout on October 18th? I don't think so. I think, if anything, that this is creating more unity and more determination and more courage from, organizers across the, whatever you call the left or the political spectrum. I mean, we have a big tent, in our, coalition of organizations that are part of No Kings. And we have labor groups, we have, human rights groups, we have indivisible groups from all over the country. We have, just you name it. If you go to the No Kings website and you go to partners, it's kind of incredible when you look at the list.
So it's not a time to cower or hide under the bed or go underground.
No.
Not at all. I mean,
Yeah.
I think we need to declare, that we beat him back for the moment, right?
Yeah.
On sending military presence here, and what was it, the professional agitators that we
Yes.
have here? But
I wish we were professionals.
Yeah.
I meant we would get paid, right?
Exactly.
Still waiting for that George
Good time
Soros
to
check.
point out. Good time to point out that Indivisible Chicago Alliance is an all-volunteer organization, but
And the
yes.
Klonsky Retirement Fund is really hurting. I can't do pitches on Lumpin' Radio, but just a point. Trump was before he pulled back the troops, he was really talking big, threatening.
Yeah.
He was talking about. Well, here's a quote. He said, "I love the smell of deportations in the morning," and ran that picture from Apocalypse Now of that Colonel, whatever
Right.
Yeah.
his name is. It brings up an important, the other side of that equation, though. There are hundreds of ICE people, these ICE thugs, I would call them, bounty hunters and former Proud Boys, pouring into the neighborhoods here in Chicago and causing panic and fear among neighbors. I know you have been involved in that kind of work. Describe what you've been doing.
Yeah, let's talk about that because that is what we're seeing now. We're not seeing troops, but we are seeing the agents who are trying to kidnap and disappear people. And so there's a number of ways that Indivisible's been encouraging our folks to get engaged here. One is there is a network of rapid response teams across the city. I happen to be on the network for the northwest side of Chicago, and so I see the sightings and the possible sightings and the responses, and it is amazing how these networks are working, how they are on it whenever somebody reports a possible ICE sighting, how they're out to document, to find out what's going on, and to spread information. So there are networks like this around the city, and we encourage people to engage with them. Our partners at the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights have been holding introductions to Know Your Rights, and for people who want to get engaged in local rapid response. That is really important. We are encouraging that. We are encouraging everybody to learn to get the Know Your Rights information, so you can share it with neighbors, so you can share it with others, so you know what to do if you see any ICE activity. I see Laura's pulling up the little code for how to do that, and we should just share that as well. So that's a piece of it. Another piece of it is the resistance that we have done, that has happened so far, right? We want Chicagoans to be loud and visible in opposition to what's going on. We've we've had rallies and marches. And Mike, you mentioned the Hands Off Chicago campaign, which it has is distributing Hands Off Chicago window signs. We want those to be visible throughout Chicago. If you go to the handsoffchicago.com website, you can also print your own sign and put it in your window from there. And there's also information there, by the way, on understanding some of the things I've just been talking about, how to get engaged on the issue, how to have the basic information that we need to help keep our neighbors safe. And then, other ways to support those impacted communities. This weekend, we've got the Little Village Mexican Independence Day Parade, and the organizers have asked for Chicago to show up in support and solidarity with them. Mm-hmm. And we've put out the call to our 40,000 plus mailing list. But really, in this case, it's about showing up mm-hmm. in community and solidarity with our neighbors. And we will continue to find the opportunities for people outside the impacted communities to get engaged. You
mentioned your partners. You work in coalition with a number of groups in the city and around the country. Who are some of them?
Yeah, there's a lot of folks. I mean, there's a lot of our organizations across the city in lots of different ways that we work with. On this issue and ever since we were formed in when they were kidnapping families in 2018. Yeah, 18. Yeah. We have worked closely with the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights, mm-hmm. ISER, and other immigrant groups. We work with labor groups. We work with other activist groups on particular issues, the reproductive rights groups, the environmental groups, and we.
How do you hold that? How do you hold a coalition like that together? How do you deal with contradictions, with differences, or different ways of coming at this thing?
Well, I mean, in Chicago, there's no one coalition of organizations. There's also other grassroots groups engaged in organizing against the Trump agenda. We play a role to bring the resources that we have, which is folks who are willing to get out on the streets, which is trained safety marshals, people who will take action when we let them know what the critical actions are, whether it's calling their reps or whatever. So we bring the resources we bring to all of these tables and all these groups is that. And sure, people all have different priorities, and work through them the way we've always worked through those kinds of questions.
Let me be specific.
Yeah.
Let me be specific, and you can move on to something else if you want. But how do you handle the issue of Israel and the Palestinian rights issue, Free Palestine movement, and keep people who are pro-Israel in the coalition, who may be good on no kings? I don't know. I'm having a tough time with this question. Mm-hmm. Do you get my drift on this?
Sure.
Do you wish you weren't here right now?
No, this is a critical issue, and it's an issue for us. You are correct that, as an organization, not just on this issue, on many issues, Indivisible Chicago, our network represents people that represent a range of positions, not just on this one, even though this one is a major flashpoint one. But at the same time, we work to take positions on these critical issues. So
Do you have a
we
a position on this? What is
we
it?
do. Our most recent statement's on our website from a few weeks ago, and it is opposition to the obviously opposition to the attacks on Gaza, opposition to the genocide that's happening, and specifically opposition to any U.S. funds going to support the weapons to Israel. So we have urged we have asked our members to urge their elected officials. So when Bernie Sanders' resolution came up, to support that, Delia Ramirez, my congresswoman, also has
He's been great. He's been great
on this issue. Absolutely, has a resolution as well in the House. So we have urged our members to contact their representatives. We take note that both the last time Bernie Sanders' resolution came up in the Senate, both our senators supported it, which for Senator Duckworth was the first time she had voted against arms sales to Israel, and we urge them both to do that, and we thank them when they did.
And you don't discourage Palestinian flags being in your march or things like that?
So let me just say, we don't discourage anything being in our marches.
Yeah. Okay.
People come to our marches with many different primary concerns, right? And our marches are the expression of the people who come.
And I think too is that sometimes when we get criticism, if we're not making something a priority. I mean, we, like Kathy said, we welcome all different groups to our marches who care about maybe one issue in particular and feel very strongly about it, whether, it is the pro-Palestinian movement or LGBTQ plus rights or, environment. I mean, we want to welcome and get people out on the streets who care passionately about single issues, but we are not a single issue organization.
All right. I've been chatting with Kathy Tholin and Laura Tanner from the group Indivisible. We're going to go to a break right now, listen to a little music, and then we'll come back. Stick with us. Welcome back to Hitting Left. This is Mike Klonsky, and I'm talking with Kathy Tholin and Laura Tanner from Indivisible. Indivisible, either one of you can take this on. Indivisible helped lead the change during June's No Kings protest, and now you're back at it for October 18th. What's changed since June, and what's driving the second wave of resistance?
I mean, I would say just constant.
That's Laura, by the way.
It's Laura. Hi. The just constant overreach by the Trump administration. I think that for those of us who were very involved in the 2024 election, we were very plugged into everything that was in Project 2025. And I think it almost seemed as if it was too extreme that they wouldn't actually implement it. And now I think they're over halfway done with implementing most of the and some of the principles in there. And I think that it's just the attacks on our undocumented communities. It started out in California. And I think just with what's happening in Washington, D.C., taking over the streets of our capital with National Guard troops. And I think that people are realizing that if we don't stand up to this, we are on the we're not on the precipice in many ways of authoritarianism. We are in it. And so this is the moment that people need to get out on the streets and make themselves heard, make themselves loud in massive numbers. It's not just huge marches in big cities like Chicago. I mean, there's going to be marches all over the country, but it's not about one big, massive march. It's going to be marches in, small towns, in smaller cities, and just showing that all over the country. I mean, last time it was over 2,000 events. I mean, it's probably going to be more, and I think that it just, needs to show that people care about this all over the country, and they are outraged, and they are not happy with the current state of
How
what's
do,
happening.
how do you respond to those, especially some of the leaders within the Democratic Party, who are concerned that this kind of militancy and focus on no kings or on what's happening in Gaza is going to distract from the chances of Democrats to take back the House and Senate in 2026, and who are worried and who want us to stick to basic bread and butter economic issues and not get involved in more political issues and rhetoric.
Well, first off, I think we have to focus on all of those issues, right? And the economic issues are no small thing, right? One of the other things that's happened since June 14th was they passed the MAGA majorities.
The big, beautiful,
the big whatever
sexy bill.
Big BS bill.
Right. So they got that passed. So
Yeah.
it which is an economic war on the people of the country, right? So there are very critical economic issues. There are the insanity of the tariffs that are either on or off or on or we're paying for them or who's paying for them, but which are and all of those things, right? The jobs are tanking. The prices are up, and all of those things are absolutely critical.
Cuts
and
to the Medicare
and
cuts that are
the
coming.
healthcare
Yeah.
cuts, right? So, and those go hand in hand with the bringing the hammer down on people he doesn't like as well. And I think you cannot separate these things. They are all part of the authoritarian fascist power grab that we are seeing. And, and then the other thing that's happened since June 14th is the idea that we're just going to cheat our way through the next elections, right? We're going to, because every one of these things is deeply unpopular. And
Or not even have.
we will. No, I don't think we should even talk we will have elections because it's essential that they be able to say the people voted for us. But they're going to try to rig the elections as much as they can. So that fight back is another piece that's absolutely critical to raise up at this moment. They're trying to cheat, and we have to stop them.
And I think grassroots organizing is a big part of raising awareness to the public about what's going on with the redistricting that happened in Texas. We had the Texas Democrats here in Illinois, and our governor, stood up for them. And I think that we had a rally with them earlier in August that was incredibly powerful. I mean, we were really watching, history unfold with these people who, they eventually the gerrymandering obviously passed in Texas, but they took a stand, and they were definitely taking risks by being here. So I think we need to look to the electeds who are willing to take risks and to be courageous right now. And I think there are definitely people within the Democratic Party who are worried that by doing that, they're going to jeopardize their races in 2026. But when you look at the energy behind, let's say, Zoran Mamdani in New York, and you see the energy of the young voters, not just young voters, but people in the city around a candidate like that who, we may not all agree with someone like that on every issue, but I think we need to look to it's not just always younger candidates, but candidates who are energizing voters and who deeply care about working people and about those kitchen table issues like, jobs and housing and healthcare and education, but are also not throwing marginalized communities under the bus for the sake of winning an election. And
Does Indivisible support or endorse political candidates?
We do. We have an endorsement process. We are selective in our endorsements. So we don't endorse in every race, but where there are primary races, in our local here.
What's your criteria?
We are looking for candidates who are strong progressives on the issues we care about, who have who have strong campaigns, and who are our members, particularly in the chapters around the city, are supporting and are willing to work for. So we don't just put our name on next to candidates because we like them. We endorse candidates we're willing to go work for, and where the election of where they're running a strong campaign and their election would make a difference in the
Well, how do you navigate the divide? For example, around Mamdani's campaign in New York, just as an example.
Yeah, I mean, that's outside of our area. So
but we have
be
the same
endorsing.
issues in Chicago and everywhere, where let's say the question of Israel has split the leadership of the party, the traditional Democrats, from the younger, emerging progressive activists. How do you navigate that and not get isolated?
I mean, I wish I had the answer to that. I think I think that, we are not dealing with that right now in, the city of Chicago or at the state level with any kind of, I guess the closest thing would be the Illinois 9th Congressional District has a huge open field right now with Jan Schakowsky's retirement. And, you have a huge range of candidates who, that's going to prove a really interesting race. And I think maybe reflect a little bit on.
Are you favoring a candidate in that race?
Right now, I think as Indivisible Chicago, we are not at this point looking at endorsing or favoring a candidate. And I think that will really depend on the neighborhood chapters that are in that district. And we really look to our chapters to maybe start that process of endorsement. But at the end of the day, whoever wins the primary of that district or any congressional district in Illinois that is going to be a competitive district, which if the Democrat that wins that primary will, 99% of the chance will be the next member of Congress. But we want to get our majority back in 2026. So we will be working in Wisconsin, in Michigan. There are very competitive House races that are, going to be swing races. So we really want to support the swing states and swing districts outside our neighboring states to help those take back that small little razor-thin edge of majority the Republicans have. We need to take that back, and that's our priority.
Regardless of who wins the primaries, do you see actually a pathway for defeating the Trumpies in the presidential election? I'll tell you why I'm asking this question.
You're asking about 2028 now?
Yeah, I'm skipped ahead. Well, even in 26.
Yeah.
Even in 26, because everything I read, I don't worship the polls, but everything I read shows that Trump's numbers are plummeting fast, going in the toilet. But the only thing worse than Trump's numbers are the Democrats' numbers. Yes.
So let me just say, all politics is local, right? So you can have voters across the country saying, the Democrats aren't doing what I want them to do. That is not an indication of what will happen when they go to the polls to vote for this Democrat and this Republican. Mm-hmm. So I think you have to take that, as you have to take that with a bit of you have to look at what's happening on the local levels and who are the candidates. And I think there's a path, yes. And I think we're going to be working really hard to help push that path. And I think if you look around the country in a lot of these potential swing districts, there's some very interesting candidates emerging and running who are the kind of people who could attract, a lot of support from, and so I think there's absolutely a path, and there's even a Senate path, and we're going to be working hard on it. One of the things, as Laura was saying, when we're not organizing people to go on the streets, we are likely organizing people to go to one of our swing states to knock on doors, and that's
who do you have. Who do you invite to speak at your rallies? Do you invite political candidates to speak at your rallies, and how do you determine who to invite or who not to have, or are you just open to anybody?
No, we're not. We're very deliberate. First of all, let me just say we're very deliberate about thinking about our rallies and our speakers, and we try to. You're not likely to come to one of our rallies and have 2 hours of speakers, so we have to be selective about who we can have in our. But we have had politicians speak, and in most of our large rallies, and that it depends on the day and what we're focused on, and who is the strongest. Who is the strongest voice that we would like to uplift? I will say that when we had the Texas rally that Laura was talking about, and the Texas legislators were here, and Delia Ramirez came and gave one of the speaking spots in that rally, and she was absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
And could speak also from the point of view of a state legislator who was also fighting for truth and justice as a state legislator as well.
And let me move on from this.
Yeah.
We're going to be running short of time in a minute. Indivisible obviously has developed a cadre of strong women leadership, as both of you exemplify. How has that come about, and has it been a struggle? I mean, back in the day, this was a really big struggle. I don't know. I'm not sure it is today, because I see so many political movements now being led by women. Actually, on both sides of the struggle. Tell me something about that.
I mean, for me, I think a lot of it was that Indivisible really gained steam in 2017 after the women's marches. And I think the women's marches came out of, I think, fury at Trump's first election, at seeing however we feel about Hillary Clinton, seeing her defeated by probably, one of the, someone who is just embodies, I think, a toxic masculinity and a malignant narcissist, and someone who has gotten away with just treating women horribly. I mean, he's obviously, we don't need to go into his track record, not only just personally, but in the courts, and just, honestly, what's going on right now with his, very likely involvement and inclusion in the Jeffrey Epstein files or case or whatever you want to call it. But I think that continues. It's just this outrage that now we are looking at an administration that's even worse than the first one in terms of just these loyalists and, misogynists and people that are out to target women's rights, LGBTQ plus rights, you name it, any marginalized community. But I think for women, let alone abortion rights and healthcare. And so I think, doesn't mean if you're a parent or a mother or not, but I think for a lot of us, I am just very determined to try to do whatever I can in my lifetime to hopefully make this country a better place after I'm gone. I heard Sherilyn Ifill speak at the ACLU luncheon last spring, and she basically said, this is going to take decades to undo, and it's going to be a long road back to making this country a better country, but we may not see it in our lifetimes, but hopefully we will see it. Our children and our grandchildren will see it, because this is a serious thing that's happening right now, and I think that it can be exhausting, but it can also feel very empowering to be able to have an impact on it.
Well, we're in a very complicated time, especially when you see majority of white women in the country voting Republican and voting Trump. I don't put the burden
Well, it's slightly
that on you.
over. I mean, I agree. It's very disappointing because we thought that white women would really rally behind Harris, but the reality is, you're looking at slightly over 50%. But I think that there is, it's not
That
a
could be the
massive. It's
difference.
not 90%.
That could be the difference in the outcome
It
of the
is.
election.
It is.
Absolutely.
It is. But
So,
they also crept. I think the right also made inroads into other groups, young people, and I think that a lot of that was due to very targeted disinformation that I think made promises or instilled fear that is based on things that are not true. So I think that we have a big hill to climb in terms of fighting back against that. So I think fighting back against that disinformation is a big part.
I think you're right. I think there's an opportunity now,
Mm-hmm.
especially with the economic situation the way it is. I mean, you have this guy Lutnick going around and promising pie in the sky, but it'll come next month or next year. But still, the price of inflation is here.
Yeah.
And
Right.
you mentioned the tariff thing and all that. It's an opportunity, I think, for families to organize families against Trump, and many of those who may have supported him last time around. What do you think about that?
No, I think that's absolutely right. So, misinformation or whatever, issues that people focused on in order to vote for Trump the first time, for many, many, many of them, right? Is this what they voted for? Right? So you still have the inflation. If inflation was your thing, if the price of eggs was your thing, certainly the price of eggs is still,
Well, you still have this wealth gap in the country.
You have the wealth gap. You have nobody voted to take their health care away, right?
Exactly,
Nobody
yeah.
voted to take away some of these other benefits. So I think you have an actual track record that is visible. Nobody voted for crazy up and down tariffs on again, off again today and tomorrow. And so, nobody actually, very few people actually voted to have their neighbors disappeared off the street, even if they voted because they thought that immigration was an issue.
Well, no matter how they lie or spin the issues, reality comes home.
Right.
In the home, and like you say, locally, and if Levitt or Trump or these people brag about what they say, $17.5 billion coming in to the country based on tariffs, you and I are still waiting for our piece of that. I mean, that's enough money to eliminate poverty in the whole country and provide housing and good schooling for every person.
Right.
But we don't see that
No,
happening.
that's all because we just need that money to make up for giving all the money to the billionaires. So
and to pay for war
and to pay for war.
Yeah, so those realities sooner or later are going to hit home, and that gives organizers a chance to talk reality to people who may have been
Absolutely.
maybe disillusioned.
Absolutely, and it's part of our job.
I mean, a lot of people, I
that.
think, don't really pay attention to politics, and they don't necessarily identify with one political party or another. I think there are, people who may have just gone in and, voted for Trump, because they were frustrated with what was going on in their life. And I think that as things get worse and don't change, and we see funding being pulled from public education, funding being pulled from healthcare, funding being pulled from veterans benefits. It's insane how much money is going into ICE, and for the optics of it are not good, and it is horrifying a lot of people. And so I think as people start getting personally impacted, or people that they know, and we continue to tell the stories of regular people whose lives are being really destroyed in many different ways, I think that alone is chipping away at this fantasy MAGA world that they have invented that never existed, let alone it's not something that we want to.
Well, they're throwing the whole economy into a spin, into chaos, and shifting the basis of our economy, destroying manufacturing in the country, despite what Trump is saying about bringing it back to the United States, and getting away from the development of alternative energy,
Yep.
damaging the environment, and also shifting the economy in many small communities to a prison-based economy. How do you speak to issues like that as organizers?
I mean, I think continuing to amplify stories about those things happening, and I think that's one of the things we try to do in our communications is to share that information with people. I think sometimes there's information overload, but I think continuing to call attention to the fact that the people benefiting from the current economy are, the wealthy, especially these oligarchs who literally are getting handouts from the government. I mean, people like Musk, people like Peter Thiel, who are getting massive government contracts for, tech companies, and then they're going to the White House and basically, kissing his ring. And so I think that's where the no kings part comes to it. Yes, I mean, Trump isn't literally a king, but he is behaving like a dictator, like a king, and people are groveling to him because of either what they are being threatened with, who knows, we don't know, or just for their own economic benefit that hurts many of us at the end of the day.
How can you're the communications person here locally, right, Laura?
One of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
How can people find that the message you're talking about? Where do people go to learn about your positions, your policies at Indivisible?
Well, they can go to our Indivisible Chicago website, indivisiblechicago.com, and we are on Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky, and Threads, and so we are putting out content all day that we're trying to inform the public about what's happening, but also what they can do locally, and also what they can do nationally. And we are part of Indivisible is a national organization, so Indivisible's website has actions that people can take on a national level. They can find groups across Illinois, not just in Chicago. We have 14 neighborhood chapters too, so we encourage people to get involved and find a neighborhood chapter in Chicago, because that way they can really get involved in what that chapter is doing in their community. And we just want to get people involved in any way that they're comfortable. If it's just sharing things with
if I want to know about upcoming actions,
yeah,
how can I get that information sent to me? Like, is there like a?
Yes. We have daily actions that we put out Monday through Friday, and you can sign up to get them emailed to you, and you can also go onto our website, and there's an archive of all the daily actions, and then we put out priorities for the week on our social media, so you can find it there. And we put out emails with alerts to if there's going to be a rapid response protest. And we also share our community partners' rapid response networks, like ICER. You can sign up to get their alerts and things like that. So we try to amplify what our community organizers and grassroots partners are doing as well.
Because a lot of these demonstrations and marches they seem almost spontaneous. I don't hear about them until they're practically happening.
Well, particularly now, right? Particularly in the moment we're in, we are telling our folks that they need to be ready for, rapid response. And so the best way to do that is, as Laura said, to go to our website, sign up for our daily actions, because we'll tell you both ours and our partner activities that you can engage in, and we'll email you with other important information periodically. But
rapid response is one thing. I mean, that's mainly for the activists.
Right.
Well, I mean, rapid response in the terms of like, there's a demonstration tomorrow because, right? Or what we are seeing now. There's the things we plan ahead for, like like October 18th. But there are other opportunities or things that happen. By the way, we do a lot of kind of actions that people might want to get involved in. We have people who are doing visibility work on the overpasses. We have other kinds of ways to keep the to keep the drumbeat up about, what's going on.
We're going to have to end it there. It's been great talking to both of you, Kathy Tholin and Laura Tanner from Indivisible. Thank you so much for being on our show. Thank you, Charlie Garcia, for working the soundboard for us today. A reminder, you can listen to any previous editions of Hitting Left at Libsyn.com, which hosts archived episodes of our show, or wherever you get your podcasts. Also join the Facebook Hitting Left page and follow my political scribblings at Substack.com. See you next time on Hitting Left.
Your call is important to us. Your estimated wait time is 39 hours. Press 1 to go yourself.
As we all go marching in, and we're drowning in our sins, but the world keeps crashing in while we're all on trial. As we walk this hallowed ground, and he makes a violence